who here actually thinks that one D&D is going to be backwards compatible with D&D Next, what we currently have, also known as 5th edition, even though they didn't really recognize it as 5th edition until quite some time after it was released. Everybody called it 5th edition, but it seemed like Wizards was very, very stubborn about saying 5th edition for quite some time. Of course, now it's just common parlance, we call it 5th edition. But now there is no talk of a 5.5, there is no talk of a 6th edition. It is just one D&D, because editions are not something they want to talk about. Editions are like a dirty word at Wizards of the Coast. By the way, if you're looking for 5th edition adventures that you can drag and drop into your game, I highly recommend Lair Magazine. Lair Magazine is a monthly publication that all DM Lair patrons get. It contains 5th edition adventures, maps designed for use on virtual tabletops, new monsters, traps, puzzles, villains, NPCs, patrons, and more. In addition to Lair Magazine, DM Lair patrons get to play D&D with me, hang out in monthly video calls, and lots of other cool perks. Learn more and become a DM Lair patron at the link below. So who thinks it's going to be backwards compatible? Who really thinks it's going to be backwards compatible? Has anybody ever thought of why edition seems to be a dirty word? Like there was literally somewhere in the 2 hours of announcements they gave us yesterday, somebody, I forget who it was, it might have been Crawford, I can't remember who exactly it was. I was listening to it, I wasn't actually watching the stuff. I was at the gym working out and stuff while I was listening to all of their stuff. But somebody literally said that they essentially were saying, we're not calling it a new edition, we need to get rid of the idea of editions. They want to get rid of the idea of editions in D&D. So let's talk a little bit about why they don't like the word editions. Because here's what happens when you have a new edition that comes out. You have a whole bunch of books and things that people have bought for the old edition. All of this investment, all of this time, all of the whatever, all the things you've bought. And then the new edition comes out, and generally speaking, new editions are not backwards compatible. And so then folks are like, whoa, I have to go buy all of that new stuff for the new edition. And everything that I've invested in is now worthless. There's this like crazy mentality, right? And so not everybody thinks this way, but there are some people that feel very strongly about this. And so when there's talk of a new edition, the torches come out, the pitchforks come out, and they gather around Wizards of the Coast headquarters in like Seattle or wherever they're located, right? And they're all up in arms because there's a new edition and they're losing all of their investment into the last edition. And so there's usually this segment of some size that has an outcry on the internet whenever there's talk of a new edition because of these reasons. And so I feel like they're doing they're trying really hard to not talk about new editions because they don't want to have to deal with this, right? It feels like a public relations or a marketing thing where they want to avoid talking about a next edition, a new edition. They really are trying really hard to ensure everyone, and they've said this multiple times. When I was listening to these things yesterday, their announcements, it was said multiple times, things are going to be backwards compatible, backwards compatible, backwards compatible. They're trying really hard to reinforce the fact that from their point of view, what they're telling us right now, what's going to come out in 2024 with one D&D is going to be backwards compatible. They're reassuring us because they don't want us to go up in arms. They don't want the public outcry. So they're making sure you guys all know it's going to be backwards compatible. This is not a new edition. And what you have previously bought is still going to work. All of your old modules are all going to work. All of the books you've bought are all going to work. Tasha's will work. Volo's will work. Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes will work. All of that stuff you previously bought is still going to work with the new edition. Not a new edition, it's one D&D that's coming out. We don't know what to call it. So they're playing this strategy, you might call it a game right now. Now, the question is, of course, is it going to be true? Will it actually be true? And here's my thoughts. Technically, yes. In all practical actuality, for all intents and purposes, no, it's not going to be backwards compatible. Think about it a second. Just think about it. Think about what we've learned since yesterday about some of the new things they're rolling out. Like when I think about the fact that you're going to be getting feats at level 1, when I think about the increased options that you're going to be giving races, when I think about a lot of these things they're talking about, when they want to build more and more flexibility for players so that you are not confined by certain things and you have more and more flexibility. You can do bigger combinations and do a whole bunch of more stuff to build your character. Now, I'm not saying that's bad. That's actually a beautiful thing because it gives players the opportunity to kind of do what they want, and that's gotta be awesome and fun. But here's the thing, when you allow players to do that and you allow them to have all of this flexibility and make all these combos and stuff, there is going to be power creep. You are going to have more powerful characters. We've already seen with things in Tasha's. It's already happening where characters are becoming more and more powerful. So this is going to continue to be the trend. This is what's going to happen in 1D&D. Characters will become more and more powerful. Now, you're going to say, well, that's fine, Luke. That's great. Okay, you know, yes, but think about backwards compatibility. Princes of the Apocalypse sitting on my shelf. Curse of Strahd sitting on my shelf. All these modules sitting on my shelf. How are they going to fare against a party of adventurers crafted with these new rules, which are going to make them more powerful? Am I going to be able to just run things vanilla straight out of the box? Or am I going to have to heavily tweak them, heavily work on them? I already have to. Like, I already literally have to heavily tweak any module I run, essentially increasing the power, because the power just of the modules, it can't keep up with the new character options that we currently have. Imagine when 1D&D comes out and what they're going to be able, players will be able to craft and do. I don't think that modules that we have are going to survive that. They're going to have to be heavily tweaked, right? All the monsters that we have, the stat blocks that we have, are all of those going to work equally as well? Or are they going to be legacy? Like right now, if you go on D&D Beyond, Volos and Mordenkainen's are both labeled as legacy content. The stat blocks are different. They've been pushed aside. They've been deprecated. And now we have the new ones that are different. Supposedly made more powerful. I looked at several of them. They don't look more powerful. So I think that's the bottom line. Technically, everything, yes, will be backwards compatible. But in actuality, in actual practice, I don't think that you're actually going to find that it's backwards compatible unless you put in a lot of work to bring it up, to make it fully compatible. And in my book, that's not actually backwards compatible. But Wizards doesn't really want to cross that bridge of having that conversation and talking about those things right now. I think that they're just going to keep on saying that it will because they don't want people to get all worked up about it. And I think they're just planning on releasing it, getting it out there, and then dealing with things later, is I think what their game plan probably is. I don't feel like our stuff we currently have is going to work as well as it should when they start releasing new stuff.
Click on the screen now to watch another fine DM Layer video, or to become a DM Layer patron, play D&D with me, and get an issue of Layer magazine every month. And until next time, let's play D&D.